Good morning, everybody. This is Pastor Rex. It's a Wednesday morning, and we're going through the process of developing godly character as outlined by Paul in Galatians chapter 5, where he lists the fruit of the Spirit. Sometimes we look at them individually, but oftentimes we fail to look at them as a process. And so today, I want us to look at the character or the aspect of the fruit of the Spirit that is referred to as gentleness. Now, sometimes when we hear that word gentleness in this passage, we think gentleness equals weakness. Well, in biblical terms, that really isn't what it's talking about. In reality, the word is describing a sense of submissiveness to the will of God, but it's not indicating weakness. In fact, the word was often used in the ancient world to describe an animal, probably like a horse or something, that would be gentled by the rider until it was dependable and faithful, as we looked at last week. But it was totally under the control of its master, of its owner. Well, that's kind of the idea then of gentleness. You know, in modern terms, we still talk about gentling a horse. You know, that horse has been gentled. Well, that's in a way part of this process of what God is doing in us. We've sort of rebelled and we're wild and we've gone our own way, and God is trying to tame us down a bit. He's trying to gentle us, and as we mentioned a couple days ago, he's trying to make us useful again. You know, no one would think of a horse as weak. So in reality, this idea of gentleness is strength that is under control. So for the Christian, this idea of gentleness is to take the strength that we possess that has been given to us by God and then totally give that back to Him. You know, within this idea of gentleness, then, there's this idea of a perfect obedience to God. You know, a well-trained horse is responsive to the rider. I'm not a horseman myself, but I've heard horse owners talk about, oh, that's a good horse. It almost knows what I want before I even give a tug on the reins, and it's responsive. Well, that's kind of what God is doing with us. He's training us to be responsive to Him. So when we come to this eighth characteristic of godly character, this aspect of gentleness, you know, we are seeing then God restoring obedience in us. And this gentleness then is an indication that we're making progress in this whole process of redemption. We're yielding all of our strength to the service and the glory of God who created us. And that's where our will needs to be surrendered. We're now seeing man then at this point in this process approaching his full potential as God created him to be. Now, our will then is now yielded to God at this point, and godly character is here elevated, not to a state of weakness, as we said, but elevated to a strength of character that begins to reflect the beauty of the character of God. You see, we're beginning now to see the image of God restored within our souls. Now, let me make one final observation here this morning, and that's about this character trait of gentleness. But the fact is, when this characteristic becomes evident, it indicates also in the ancient world, it indicated a balanced personality that's not controlled by rage and it's not controlled by apathy, but it's angered by that which is supposed that we should get angry at, and we don't care about those little offenses either. It's sort of a balanced outlook on life. You know, it's not saying that we never get angry, but that we get angry at the right things, at the right time, in the right measure, and for the right reason. It's that strength that is under the control of God Himself. It represents a man or a woman who has fully learned the benefits and the blessings of submission to God. And that person has then surrendered their rebellious will to the God who has accepted His full surrender. So it's like that rebellious wild horse. We are ready to yield to the will of the Master. You see, God can never use us for his purposes any more than you can use a wild horse for any kind of work or purpose other than a good rodeo show. But until we are fully surrendered to his purposes, you know, we're still useless, aren't we? And that's where God brings us along this path to godly character. I hope that God produces his gentleness in you. And like that horse, not that you should want to be compared to a horse, but I hope that God gentles your character and your spirit to reflect his gentleness and goodness as well. Anyway, have a great day. Bye for now. God bless.